The two Jills, a psychologist and psychic intuitive, reveal mind-blowing insights that turn psychology, self-help, and conscious teachings on their heads. Why? Because they work. Real help, sincere growth is here. Welcome to Psyched.
Hi, Jill.
Hey Jill, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am really good. I'm happy to be back on Zoom. I just want to tell everybody we're going back to Zoom. And the other things were too complicated and we tried really, really hard.
If the video quality is not HQ and it's bothering you and 1080p is your minimum, we are not your people. Switch to audio and just close your eyes and just enjoy.
Exactly. We're going
So
old
Jill,
school.
that's right. Zoom is friendly, it's easier to work with, and no offense to Riverside, but it's not worth it, the extra
No,
effort. So,
this fits
okay.
our lives.
Yes.
Okay. What's our
Okay.
topic today, Jill?
We are going to talk about families and how to let shit go. We're timing this specifically so that it's helpful around the holidays that are coming up.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of kind of festered kind of resentment, a lot of idealization of holidays. So we have a lot to talk about. Sound good?
I love it. I love
Okay.
it.
I would like to start us off with a story.
Oh.
I remember a really awesome Pilates reformer teacher, and she also taught yoga. And she is like the stereotypical, just beautiful little body, perfect little hair. I mean, all of her outfits were perfect. I mean, she is an image of, she's a vision of perfection and idealism. And there was one time around the holidays when she was asking us throughout the reformer session, what were our plans for the holidays? Really small class. They only had 3 reformers. So it was really, really small class. VIP treatment there. And she admitted to something that I could totally resonate with. She said, I hate watching myself on family Christmas videos because all I'm doing is yelling at everybody and barking, like, get out of the shot, get out of the shot. And, she said, I'm not having any fun. And I'm adding some of my commentary to it too.
Yeah.
Trying to be overly controlling, trying to make it too perfect, and really possibly ruining the day for the entire family by the sense of controlling idealism. And I could totally relate that there's a version of my Jill that can be very much like that. That was actually part of my whole discovering my gifts was being overly type A about a Father's Day gathering and how stressed I would be for like the 24 hours before to try to make it as perfect as possible. I sucked the fun out of the entire experience. So now I have created another version of me and I enjoy the holidays. They're not perfect. They never were,
Yeah.
right? I do what I can. I enjoy myself. It's much more about how people feel, right? When they enter my home, I want to make sure I give them the biggest hug ever and that they feel welcomed and seen and heard. And I'm setting the mood and the tone for just an enjoyable experience. But in my world, as I am, that doesn't happen by accident. Nobody's going to remember the food, right? What are we doing?
It doesn't happen by accident.
No,
and
yeah, go ahead.
What you're saying is it's so important because we go into the holidays with really high hopes that people are going to behave, that people are going to like my food, that, so-and-so is going to show up sober. We have so much hope, right? And so what we want to do here is, yes, let's keep the hope alive. Not that things are going to be different and that they're still going to be great. Right? Those two things don't have to be tied together anymore. Everything can be the shit show that it is, or whatever, your family dynamics, whatever those things are, you can have all of that still play out, and you can still, through what we're going to discuss, find a way to really just be amused and enjoy yourself and not take yourself so seriously or anybody else in your family so seriously. right? And to your point, to have a little fun with this finally, right? Like, let's not, get so stressed out as we do on holidays.
I feel like the whole Norman Rockwell and Martha Stewart and all these at-home chefs feeling like they need to keep up with the Martha Stewarts of the world has really done us a disservice. And maybe not to everybody, maybe nobody got caught up in that stuff, but there's just this sense of everybody's supposed to be on their best behavior. Everybody's supposed to be some sort of idyllic version of themselves, whether that's children or, like you said, somebody that has been known to drink too much, or maybe even has addiction issues, right? Or mental illness, right? There's so many ways that we are flawed in our humanness. So to expect that those flaws are somehow left out of a holiday experience, that it's so ridiculous when you really let yourself think about it.
It is. And look, our families are our triggers. They trigger everything, right? Those are the original triggers. That's the deep end of the pool, for a lot of us. And, we don't have to revert back to being the youngest or the middle child or the one who was left out or, the least favorite sibling. Who knows what, your stories are, right? And we talk about stories. We don't have to revert back there. That's not a given. Even if you're triggered, you can catch the trigger and still not go back there.
That's right.
It's
so
possible.
the more authority that someone feels over themselves in their everyday lives, giving themselves permission to be that version of you, even if you're in your childhood home, even if you're at your hometown where you grew up, that you're bringing your mature, hopefully emotionally mature adult version of you that is higher functioning than you were as a kid, right? That you're bringing that even to family dynamics. But for whatever reasons, that does not come naturally. There is a reverting that happens for a lot of humans. And I think some of it is the powerful personalities that play out in these roles. Like you said, that you don't have to, I love your list. If you don't have to be this, you don't have to be that anymore. You can just be you, right? And dropping this need to impress, right? If they're not impressed with you now, they're probably never going to be impressed with you. So just liberate yourself of the idea that you're ever going to impress these people if you haven't already, and just enjoy yourself, right? Yeah. Be a decent human being who's as kind and loving as possible, and just be prepared, right? Be prepared for all the things that would trigger you. Give yourself some kind of armor in a way of, okay, I expect this is going to happen. It's happened every other time we've gotten together, probably going to happen again. How am I going to choose to respond, if at all? Right. It doesn't have to bother you, right? Someone once said to me, you don't get to decide who shoots an arrow at you, but you do get to decide whether it hits your target. And I love it. I just love that saying. It's just like, yes, because I was kept running around trying to take everyone's arrows and bows away from them. That doesn't work well, Jill.
That is a really good analogy, actually. I like that too. I think there's so as I hear you talking, right, and we're kind of not skirting, but we're going around the issue. We're saying it doesn't have to affect you, right? It doesn't have to, but it has for the past umpteen years, right? So I guess we should really just, dive in. Families are so messy. So let's just kind of like dive in. You and I have 1,000 strategies on this, so I think we should just, put out the buffet and let people start to, try things on. And we have a good amount of time before Thanksgiving. So my suggestion would be, or the US Thanksgiving, and other holidays. But my suggestion would be anything that you decide to try, only try one and try it for a week, but also try it now in the shallow end of the pool, right? So you're not bombarded with every family member that you've had an issue with, or not, we're kind of doing this in hyperbole, but everybody has some excitement and some trepidation about what's going on. And even if you can handle it, like a lot of people don't act on it, and the things are not overt. They're more internal, like, oh, I'm glad that's over. We don't even want you to be in that position. We want you to be able to sit there with your pecan pie for as long as you want to without feeling like you got to run out of there to save your life, even if you're not emoting or in an actual fight with somebody, even if it's just your quiet, resolute, I'm just going to hold on for another hour and then I'm out of here situation.
Nice.
Right.
Okay. So let's take turns doing our top 10 strategies to survive the holidays with a smile on your face and warmth in your heart.
Yes.
So you go first. Number 1.
All right. So I think my favorite one is setting it to neutral. Okay. So if somebody passes you the potatoes and you heap them on your plate, and then somebody else asks you, I thought you couldn't eat those, or I thought those were bad for you, or last year you didn't eat butter, or I get this all the time. You can tell this is like, what are you eating now, Jill? I'm like, okay, gotcha. We can just kind of, when I say set it to neutral, what they're saying is not good nor bad. Your brain does not have to go right into seeing that as an attack and then having to defend or retaliate. Right? So that's what the neutrality does. And we'll talk about this a lot in different ways as, through the podcast, because it's such a powerful one. So anything that comes into you, don't be like, I know why you're saying that, whether you're jealous or you're angry or you're just obnoxious. Set that to neutral. Be like, I don't know. What am I doing today? Like it's easy and it stops the history.
I love humor, by the way. This isn't my number. I'm not on number 2, but I have to add a number 1.2 to yours.
Yes.
Because if somebody did say that at my table about, I thought you weren't eating. Are you eating carbs now, Jill?
Right.
Right. My response would, because I love coming up with prepared, almost like stand-up comic sort of responses to likely kinds of things that will make everybody laugh, but maybe have a bit of a dig, just a slight little dig in there. Mine would be
I don't know if that's neutral.
Okay. I know it's not. That's why I wanted to offer 1.2.
Okay.
I think my response would be, oh my God, are you trying to keep track of what I'm eating when? Because that's going to be a full-time job. It changes by the day.
Right.
And then everybody laughs and then it goes away.
Yeah. That's why I always say I'm a moving target.
There we go.
Moving target. You're trying to pin me down.
Yeah.
I'm a moving target. So that's, to your point, full-time job.
Okay. So I'm going to start with something a bit extreme. Okay. Top 10 strategy to get through the holidays with a smile on your face and warmth in your heart. Don't go. If it's miserable and you are only going out of obligation, what if you don't go? What if you and whatever you classify as your loved ones that you prefer to hang out with that day, what if you create other plans? If this is a totally toxic environment that you dread every minute of it, why are you going? You're an adult. There is no attendance being taken. This isn't school, right? Maybe those that you want to get together with, you have a pre-holiday sort of event and spread it out. Might you have 5 different experiences because the getting everybody together is what creates the toxicity? You have so much more freedom here.
I like that. I think that, I don't know, is that a first resort or a last resort? I'm not actually
Depends
sure.
on the situation. I'm not going in order of restraint.
Yeah, because
I just really felt like, why are we even doing this? Is kind of the point I'm trying to make.
Give yourself an out. Like always give yourself an out. I
don't feel any loyalty to the Pilgrims or the Native Americans or anything they were doing on any supposed day that we're calling Thanksgiving. I really don't. I'm not emotionally attached to this. Right. My favorite memories from life are not holidays. They're not birthdays. They're not gifts. They're not presents. They're not food that was slaved over for a day. And I shouldn't use the word slave, but labored over.
Labored over. Look, I love Thanksgiving. It is one of my favorite holidays, particularly because there's no gifts. so to me, it is a special holiday, and we run into a lot of, kind of confusion in families, because this year is, my year, and then the next year is my spouse's year, so there is a lot of, pressure, and even comparisons, sometimes between, well, last year we didn't have to do this, and, between the families. So I think what I would offer is you can always not go. And if you do not go, I would say don't make it a protest. Make it a sovereign choice of like, wow, I'm actually free to choose, and I'm choosing not to go. This is not like your combat boots and a bed of roses. I'll show them.
Yeah,
right?
There's no screw you. It's just
There's
this
no
doesn't
screw
sound like
you.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the other piece is, for me, I always love to go. In order to see my brain in action, I have to go where the triggers are. Right. So I'm like, run into the fire, people, and see what your brain does, because it's interesting. And, if people have been listening enough, they're getting good, right, at starting to look at not what people are doing to me, but what am I making it mean over and over again, year after year, that kind of thing. And so when you put yourself in, the firing range, and you just say, that was another thing that I did. I was like, I found myself trying to avoid triggers, right? And then hoping people wouldn't trigger me. And I went into this avoidance place. And I have said this before, but the energy flip on that is saying, yeah, trigger me, bring it.
So now we're analyzing my number 2. I see what we're doing here, Jill. Dr. Lankler.
Wait, what's your number 2? Do I know it?
Yeah, my number 2 is don't go.
Oh, I thought that was your number 1.
Well, no. I mean, I know, but we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, okay.
So my number 1, my first one. We're analyzing mine now. I understand.
I'm adding to it. So I'm saying bring the triggers, because that kind of invites. I'm going on to number 3.
Oh, okay.
In your version, I'm saying bring it.
Okay.
Right. So you're like, don't go, which is totally fine. But I'm saying, if you're going to run into the fire, then really run into the fire, and don't run in hoping nobody's going to misbehave.
Oh yeah.
Go in expecting and seeking out the misbehavior, because when you seek it out, you're actually energetically in a powerful position.
Nice.
Right. You're in offense. When you're waiting for something, you're in defense, and we don't work well in defense. In offense, we're online and we're good. Yes. And when you're expecting somebody to say something from an offensive position, you'd be like, oh, I knew that. Like, I knew that, rather than I knew it. Right. Like, there's a difference. I'm like, right on cue. Thank you very much. Then I'm going to watch my brain, and I'm going to listen to that, and I'm going to take a pause, and I'm going to smile, whatever it is I'm going to do. But I don't need to respond, because I asked them to do it. Right. So that I could watch my brain. They're actually doing me a service.
Nice. Love it. Okay. So my turn. I like yours.
Number 4.
Mine is don't cook. Hire it out. Cater it. Do whatever you want to do, people. Right. So here's what happened in my family. So we were doing because Jeff and I, we just had our 29th wedding anniversary. You guys have been married a long time too. It's so fun. Anyway, happy marriage is a good thing when it's happy, and ours is happy. Anyway, we traded off a lot between my family and Jeff's family. They both live locally, and what we learned when we started hosting, and I don't really love to cook. I love to eat out or go to a restaurant or whatever. So we had prepared things that we brought in and reheated. One time we had it catered. That was amazing food. That was a great deal. Anyway, what we learned from my mother-in-law, who has created, she's done Thanksgiving for someone, even if it's just for her and her little pod, if they weren't joining us and my parents for theirs. She hates doing Thanksgiving. She does everything, right? My mother-in-law, Donna, she's amazing. So it's like, do you want me to bring anything? Nope, I've got it. And then we're all eating this, catered food or prepared food. And and maybe it's not fantastic, and maybe it's not as good at hers or my mom's, but it's definitely enjoyable, and sometimes it is even better. She was like, I always hated cooking Thanksgiving. And I was like, what? You hated it all these years, but you felt this obligation to make all these dishes, and so likes it this way, and I got to do another version of it for that person. I'm like, well, then
That's
let's just
martyrdom, right?
yeah.
It's like
And
the martyred Thanksgiving. Whoa.
So she loves Thanksgiving now, because she's like, are you cooking? She loves it even more, that because she's not a mean person. She's like, I'm so glad nobody's having to cook. We're just reheating things, which is so easy. Anyway, so Whole Foods, we get a turkey from there, and it's organic, and we heat it up or whatever. It's slick. Anyway,
I'm always trying to do
that's
the
my
same
strategy.
thing.
Don't cook. If you love to cook, I don't want to take anything away from you people. But if you don't like to cook, or you want to outsource some pies to Costco or whatever, keep it simple.
I love that. Whenever I'm at somebody's house for Thanksgiving, I'm like, what's the easiest thing to do? And they're like, I don't know. I think people do give themselves a lot of stress, and that goes to the ideal or what it's supposed to look like, or they want to make it special, but is it special when you're stressed out? Like there's kind of no logic to some of that stuff, so it is about taking stock of making sure you're having fun too. You're not like putting on a Broadway play, right? You're kind of just getting together with family. The food is kind of secondary. Right? It should be, I guess. I guess it's a feast.
It depends.
I don't know.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, I guess I shouldn't really say that. I don't really know, but you want to be able to set yourself up for the most enjoyable, least stress holiday, right? And that's kind of what you're saying. If not showing up is the way you can get to that happy place, then don't show up. And if not cooking is the best way, then don't cook. You do have to find a way to get to a happy place, right? And I think for me also, it's about not caring, what's coming at you, right? Mm-hmm. There is the time when you can just kind of decide that you're not that person anymore, or like you said earlier, so-and-so is not going to change. They're not going to change, and you don't need them to. I think that's the other piece that's like number 5 or 6. I lost count already. Math is, are we at 5 or 6? I don't know.
I think you're on number 3. No, number 5.
No, it's at least 5.
5.
So let's go with 5. So here's the other one. Nobody has to change. You go in with 0 expectations of other people, right? You can expect, like I said before, that people are going to be themselves. This is the second half of this. You have no expectation that somebody else is going to do something differently, and they don't have to, right? So you can just tell yourself, you just be you. I honor you. This is one thing I ran around saying to myself for a long time. I honor you where you are. And it really diffused a lot of my expectations, negativity, even demands, that people treat me a certain way. God damn it, I'm not, and people must think I have a real fucked up family. I actually don't,
You don't. You have a lovely family.
But I deal with, we deal with a lot of clients, and my busiest times as a therapist, and probably for you as well, are the holidays. People are losing their minds, right? Over the stresses of family, finances, everything. So that's why we're doing this, because from that standpoint, this is the busiest time for therapists, the busiest time for mental health eruptions, hence this podcast, right? So, take this in at your level of what it is. If you just have an annoying cousin, then work on the annoying cousin. If your whole family is a hot mess, then, choose a few.
Go to Mexico. Have a margarita. Escape to Mexico.
What else are we not going to do, Jill? We're not cooking. We're not showing up. What else are we not doing?
Okay, so are we on number 6? I
Yes,
don't want to
number
interrupt your
6.
number 5. Okay, I'm loving this. I almost feel like it's, yeah, I love it. Okay, I feel like David Letterman a little bit, but without the writers. We're on our own, Jill. Okay, number 6, I would say be creative and experimental, right? If there are traditions that you have that you love and you're hosting, or you have some say in the planning of the day, then keep the traditions that you love. There are some other traditions that you may not even need, right? Do you have to use the fine china? Do you want to use paper plates? I mean, how do you want to run this thing, right? Do you want to do a potluck, right? There's so many experimental ways. The first time we hosted, my kids were all cringy about this. They were both mid, early teenagers at the time. Like, we're going to play a game, a little piece of slips of paper for everybody. And I think the question was, what's something that we don't know about you? And then if anybody guessed it right, they got, I think I had like a little prize or something like that for them. And it was so fun. So around the pie eating time, we went around the room and, okay, what don't we know about you? And then they said it, or I can't remember how we did it. I'm gonna really mess this up. But there was something like, oh, does anyone know my first job? Does anyone know my favorite ice cream or whatever? And then if anybody guessed it correctly, or I think I read it. Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
It goes in the bowl, right?
That's
the fish
edit
bowl.
this. Yeah, there's a bowl. Like,
yes.
Here's the question, then the answer's on the back. So I would ask the question, oh, so bad at telling stories, Jill. I apologize to everybody. It was, somebody had to write a thing down about them that nobody knew, and then we had to guess who wrote it.
Yes.
That's what it was. Thank you.
We call that fish bowl,
We
right?
put it in a bowl. Oh my God, it was so fun. And my family normally doesn't do stuff like that. My kids were like, oh, it was so fun.
That is really good.
My father-in-law was still present at the time. He passed away since, but we all learned something about his first job that none of us, even his wife, didn't know. My mother-in-law didn't know. So it was really touching and beautiful, and everybody had something to share. It was very centering and just lovely. Yeah.
I
So
love
be
that.
creative.
I love be creative. I'm trying to get the family to do a buffet. There's so many of us. It's really hard to set up, and that setup is super stressful.
Yeah,
and,
potluck. We call it a potluck from Minnesota.
It's almost like it's not even, we're all in one contained environment, but we can't fit around a table. Like we have to bring in, oh my God, right? So I had mentioned to my husband, like, okay, let's float the idea of a buffet where we could just have a buffet and everybody could sit where they want. And he's like, the matriarchs are never going to go, patriarchs are never going to go for it. And I'm like, let's just float it, right? Let's just see. So I'm still, if she's listening, I'm like floating the idea, my mother-in-law, I'm floating the idea of a buffet for Christmas. But even this year, we outsourced Thanksgiving this past year. It was such a big group, and it was a lot to get everybody on board, but we did do it. And we went to a restaurant.
Nice.
And it worked out super well. And it was a very different experience. And it's very nice when you can have a different experience, right? When you still can be together and get the whole group to agree, to do something different. It was a big deal. It was pretty great, actually. Yeah. All right. So what are some other things that we do? So maybe like, what are some specifics I'm trying to think of that, another one that can be problematic is how, and I've had this with a couple of clients, like their families are, in their families, they behave a certain way in their family, in their family of origin or whatever. But then when they have to go to talk to grandma, the little kids have to put on their perfect matching clothes, or, because you're just afraid to offend, another generation, and it can be a little stultifying. And we do ask our kids a lot of times to just just do this for this holiday, and then you can go outside and rip off your tie and whatever, right? And so one thing that I would offer is we're setting the tone when we do that for our children of stressful holidays, right? And we're passing that along. And so if you really want to start in a direction that's moving into something like Jill and I are discussing, that's more agreeable and more fun and whatever, see if you can let go of some of those things. You can tell your grandparents that, yes, our older children, they actually live together, their boyfriend and girlfriend, and they live together, because sometimes, they'll have like, well, you come in separately from your boyfriend so that grandma and grandpa don't know, that you're
living together in
sin. So just things like that we're passing along. So I just offer, rip the Band-Aid off, let your parents know what a shitty parent you are, take the, take the judgment that's going to come your way, and leave your kids alone, right? Don't parade them around, dress them up, make them lie, pretend they're something other than they are. Just take the hit, take the hit. And then that sets up, I think, a much better scenario moving forward.
I love it. Love that. And that was going to be one of mine too. So now I don't have to cover it now. The whole be comfortable, right? There was one year, my oldest one especially, she loved to wear very comfortable clothes. She was very much into comfort and like cottony fabrics, super how it felt, including inside, right? She was always really into that. So Gymboree, I mean, she lived in Gymboree, little leggings and cute little top and cute little shoes, little, Mary Janes or whatever. And apparently it looked like pajamas to a certain relative. And it was the first thing that relative said. And I think it was just thoughtless on their part. She's not in my jail or anything from doing this, but I do still remember, and I'm still talking about it.
Right. It's on our podcast for posterity.
It's true. Right.
It's here.
But the first thing they said was, it wasn't, hi, how are you doing? It was, why are you wearing your pajamas? And literally she was 2. And I was just like, hi, like, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? But I let it go. And I made sure to say right then, like, doesn't she look amazing? And she's super comfortable today. And that's it's so great to look great and be comfortable. And then I changed the subject and gave hugs. You know what I mean? So you just kind of let it go. You pick your battles. And I don't think holidays are a great time to pick battles. But anyway, just wanted to add that. So my number is more related to the gift giving nature of Hanukkah, Christmas, etc. Please give yourself the authority, set a budget if you need to, right? For everybody, maybe that you have a spending limit, or maybe you don't buy gifts this year, right? Again, being creative, and the obligation that some family members can feel to come up to measure up to other family members, that there maybe if there's income disparity, etc. It's not about the gifts, right? So to make sure that they know that, like, you know what, can we skip gifts this year? Can we just do like stockings or something else that just you really have permission to redo that kind of stuff, even with your own children. If you've had some financial years that were just amazing, and you were giving laptops or, whatever, and the financials are not that way this year, please give yourself permission. I don't think your kids are going to care, right? They probably care more about your stress levels and financial stresses than you realize at any age. So to have a sit down, whether they're 2 or 22 or 42, look, I know we've had some great Christmases, guys, but we're just trying to, be really financially savvy right now. Maybe you've gone crazy in the previous year. So we're going to have a modest Christmas, and just wanted you to know that it's no reflection of our love upon you. Right?
Yeah. I like that. That is really good. And, I do feel like there is, for some of us, this these past few years, I have seen a real uptick, just in gratitude, and I am really warmed by that. You're not going to find it watching the news, but look at your family, right? And how they navigated it. And, I'm sure many people have done this already, but take stock again, of what you've gained, over the last few years, because there is a, like a, brain aspect that I use, which is, it's like, look for what's right. The brain is really good at looking for what's wrong, so it could correct it, right? Try to correct it, whatever. But it's not as good as looking for what's right. And even if you're sitting across from your family members who are chewing with their mouths open, look for what's right. There is something there, and sometimes you do have to get creative. And I remember once I was saying to a client, and she was saying, there is nothing right in my life. Like, she was just not having this exercise. And I was like, did you put your shoes on today? Right? Like, I don't care what it is, right? There's something that's right, something that went right, something that is right. That person chewing with their mouth open, they could have really nice hair, or who knows? Like, just find it, be creative, and find it. It feels nice once you get good at it, and you start to realize, wow, I really do assess people from what's wrong. You'll actually notice when you start to look for what's right, you'll recognize how unusual it feels.
Beautiful. The other thing, and this does come up in my work quite a bit, is the holidays can be the hardest time for people that have lost a loved one. So having space, when I was talking about my number one about don't go, right? And also don't force other people to go, right? If I've had clients that one of the, whether it's a lost child and one of the parents, or maybe it's a step parent, that is sort of like, come on, you've got to, like, obligating them, like, it's Christmas, there's the other kids, you have to, like, show up. And I've heard from the other parents saying they don't understand. And my point to them was, they can't understand. You're each experiencing this loss differently, right? So if you're conditioning you guys staying connected and, to even together, is that he understands or she understands how you're experiencing the loss of your child, or the loss of your mom, or the loss of their dad, or whatever. That's asking too much, and it's not fair to the other person. It's your job to understand you and your version of grief. It's no one else's job, right? So that sense of, again, possibly being creative with how a lost loved one is, I want to say, honored, remembered, right? That's beautiful. If there is like a candle that's lit, and everybody leave maybe a little message of what they loved about that person, and maybe they read it at some point in the ceremony, in the festivities, right? Of just feeling like that person is not forgotten, and that to the person that's really, really grieving, maybe in a more serious way, that may do wonders for that person, and they may feel so touched and so loved, because sometimes that's the biggest part of grieving, is fear that the loved one is going to be forgotten.
Yeah, that's huge. And I do think that is, what we were talking about before, that is a big part of the uptick, in the mental health spike, around this time, when people who were at the holiday last year are not going to be there this year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It is like, how am I going to get through this? How am I going to do this? And you have to honor where you are, and, and honor your, like you said, you honor your grieving process. And, The one thing that I can say though, and I do this for myself a lot, whether it's, a situation where somebody's not here, or, these things, it applies to the living as well. Nobody wants to be an excuse for you not enjoying yourself. Right. And, a lot of people say like, oh, somebody would, if there was a choice of you grieving over me or you enjoying yourself so that I could be there with you in that joy, right? They would choose your joy. And to allow that space in your grieving process, that they would choose your joy.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, grieving is for the living, right? It has nothing to do with the dead. It's the space that's no longer taken up by a physical body, right? But nobody on the other side wants you to be grieving ever at all. And that's part of what I did for myself, was to kind of say there's another side. For me, I believe that there's more, right? So you wouldn't grieve for somebody who just went off to Disneyland, right? So when you're making that story for yourself and for them, make sure that you have them enjoying themselves, right? Put them in a space where they're enjoying themselves, and that will help you just be like, they're not here, and that sucks, but they're great. They're great. Make it great. I don't know if that sounds naive or whatever, but for me, in order to walk this earth, that's the version of death I have to have, right? I want to have, I like to have. It helps me, it serves me, and yeah. So that's what I
like
got.
that. Jill, isn't it true that suicides go up over the holidays? There's more suicides over the holidays. I think I've seen that statistic. I don't know if it's true. I
have seen those statistics, and that is something that we always, we're kind of citing or worrying about. Depression certainly goes up, and suicide is often related to depression, right? So there is a fear that they could spike.
I wonder if for a lot of people, part of, I'm not saying all of it, but a layer of that depression is, the reality of their situation relative to the idealized version that I would say nobody's having. So I think the brain does completely lie to us. And we already know that depression is filled with self-deceptive thoughts that are not accurate, that are not true, that are outright horrible lies, right? That the brain is telling the individual that's suffering from depression. That, some of the other podcasts that we've talked about, I hope are helpful there. And just having a lot of compassion, right? That even if an individual is isolated or feeling really alone during the holidays, I think the brain, I'm trying to be funny with this one. I'm just gonna, maybe it'll be funnier if I prepare you that I'm meaning it to be funny. That the brain will say, well, everyone else is having a great holiday. And literally some families are having their worst day ever because they're not where they want to be. They're not eating what they want to eat. They're either in uncomfortable clothes that they don't want to wear. And they're with people that they would not even call friends, but they do call family, that they feel stuck with together on what's supposed to be a joyful holiday, right? So I hope what we're trying to cover here is help people have literally more enjoyment on what is supposed to be a joyous day, a day of gratitude when it comes to Thanksgiving, a day of blessings and appreciation and all the traditions that come with things like Hanukkah and Ramadan. And well, Ramadan is a different time of year, depending on the moon and that little star. Anyway, but Christmas, any celebrations that you're having, right? The more that we can allow a sense of creativity and a sense of grace and a sense of compassion, that it's never going to be perfect. So what do you want to make the day be, right? and possibly including somebody that is outside your family, that is alone for the holidays, that you have a relationship, or, oh my God, my family used to bring home athletes. My sister was dating a basketball player at the college, and there were 4 guys that didn't have anywhere to go. And my parents were total, Bronco booster kind of folks. And they were like, have them come for Thanksgiving, So we had, these Thanksgiving orphans who obviously have great families, but they couldn't get home. They couldn't afford the plane ticket or whatever. So I love inviting others that for whatever reasons aren't with their families for the holidays, or maybe they don't have a family, right? I love that.
Yeah, I think that's really nice too, right? That's what the gratitude piece is, right?
Yeah.
And look, this one probably a little skewed toward, the more troubled aspects of Thanksgiving, so
hey, I said don't cook. That's not trouble.
That's right.
I did get serious though, because it felt like, that is what some of my clients are asking about.
100%. No, 100%. I just want to make sure, that there is something for everybody, right? And so I think the idea is, look, still use the stuff that kind of pisses you off or rubs you the wrong way, or so-and-so had to have that extra drink, like whatever it is, you kind of don't care, right? But you still see it, right? So try those things in your family. If you don't have total dysfunction, just notice the things that just irritate you, or that you are judging, in other people, and still apply the principles, that Jill and I were, that you and I were talking about, because there's always room for a brain upgrade. And Thanksgiving is a beautiful time to actually do that, because it's a way that you can almost gauge yourself, because you do it every year, right? So if you are not at the point where Thanksgiving is like a total wild bash, then this podcast is for you, right? You still have something that you could let go and not get intense about. And those are the things where we're asking you to find. And we do feel that the brain training we're talking about, or, watching your brain and the mechanics, is a fun endeavor. Overall, it's fascinating, right? So make it fascinating, and be fascinated by what you find.
Love it. I'll include links. There's a couple other podcasts I've done related to a sense of healing and forgiveness, and letting kind of issues lie at the doormat before certain events related to things like COVID vaccination disagreements and politics disagreements and things like that. There's a lot of strategies I've offered in a different podcast about that. So I'll include that.
That sounds good. And I have a blog that I post it every year. It's one of those, why rewrite it when it's such a goodie? But it was about pricelessness, and that there are certain things that are just priceless, and the holidays kind of brings that to the fore. So I will post that too on psyched.wtf.
Nice. Very good. Sound good. Did we cover everything, Jill, that you were hoping to cover?
I think we did. I think we did
too.
Keep it short.
I like it. Yes. We could talk about, there's so much more we could talk about, but I like what we've done here. I like that we did a list. I like that it covered a lot of different bases of discomfort and dis-ease that can happen over the holidays. And I hope all of you have wonderful holidays with you and your loved ones, or however you're celebrating.
I agree.
Love you, Jill.
Love you too.